Welcome back. I am Ranger Yusuf, and we are here at the Blue Heron mining community here in the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area, and this is the 10th annual Ghost Train event. We hope that you enjoyed last night's story about the blue moon. Our story for this evening is from Mrs. Joanne Rogers, and her story is about the nature spirits who help look after the Big South Fork. Enjoy.
Hey y'all, how you doing? Y'all come to Big South Fork much? You do? You ever hiked No Business Valley? That's a great hike. No? Let me tell you about it. You got a minute? Great. It's worth it, trust me. Beautiful place. Anyway, some friends of mine and I, Scott and Linda, we hike there a lot. In fact, we love to camp there. Let me tell you about one of our camping trips. You get there you park over by Terry Cemetery, over on the Fentress County side. And you got to drive there, drive up Divide Road, and over to Terry Cemetery, and you park, and you take Longfield Branch Trail, which follows Longfield Branch, which is one of the several branches that feeds down into No Business Creek and No Business Valley. And Scott and Linda and I traveled down there with all of our hiking gear and tents. And Longfield Branch Trail's about a mile, just a short, not too long a walk, down to the campsite. There's several campsites there, but we like the campsite that's right there on the ranch, right where Longfield Branch converges into No Business Creek. And there's a beautiful campsite right there on the right. Lots of shade trees, kind of like right here, like our nice little spot. And we pitched our tents right there at the creek, and it's nice and high. I'd say it's a good 10, 12 feet above where the creek runs, No Business Creek. And No Business Valley, where the creek runs, is a valley that used to be a community there years ago, in the early 1900s. About 300 people, I think, used to live around there. Back in the days of Prohibition, there was some moonshine in there, lots of stories. Scott could tell you tons of stories, especially the Boyette family. In fact, their homestead, or remnants of their homestead, is there. It's a historical site, and he can tell you all kinds of stories about the Boyette farm. But we pitched our tents there, and I highly recommend that site. That's a great camping site. Also, you want to bring your water shoes, because you got to cross No Business Creek to get to No Business Trail. And if you go left, that's going to take you down about a half mile to the Boyette farm. Worth the visit, because the homestead, or remnants of the homestead, are still there. And just past the homestead is the cemetery. And it's beautiful. It's up on a hill, and it's really pretty. It's a great place to have lunch. So we, Scott and Linda and I, dropped our tents, pitched our tents there, and dropped, our heavy load, grabbed our backpacks, and crossed No Business Creek and went just for a short hike, just to kind of check out the homestead. But on our way there, we kind of took it slow, take in the sights, take in the beautiful wildflowers growing along the creek there. And as we were making our way towards the homestead, we hear these rowdy voices. And it was these two guys coming up behind us. They must have parked right behind us soon after we left our truck up at Terry Cemetery. Either that or they were coming down farther from No Business Trail, maybe from the Kentucky Trail. I don't know, but they were coming a good lick, passing us by, run into me, drink a beer, and dropping their beer cans down on the trail, littering. And just plowing right past us on their way to the Boyette farm. So I stopped and picked up their cans, because you're not supposed to litter in the forest. You guys know that. And as I'm stooping down to pick up their cans, Scott and Linda are ahead of me, and I feel a tug on my shirt. And I'm like, thinking maybe, you know how when you're walking through the woods, you know, you get caught on a branch and it tugs your shirt. But there's no branch there. I just feel this tug. And I'm thinking, that's weird. But I just kind of slough it off. Put the cans in my backpack, because I'm going to take them out with me when we're done with our camping trip. Right? You don't want to leave anything you bring in to the forest. You take everything out. That's what you're supposed to do. And I know you guys know that. So anyway, we make our way to the Boyette farm, and on our way along the trail, along the creek, we spot some bear prints. That's always fun. And one of them, ginormous, oh my gosh, and it was a good one too, because it had rained and it was kind of mucky, so it was a really good print, bigger than my hand. And we saw some trees where the bears had clawed the trees, and I grabbed Linda and I go, Linda, look. And if you look real close, if you ever see a tree where the bears have clawed the trees, if you look really, really close, you can see sometimes the black hairs from the bears. That from them clawing the trees, they'll lose some of their black hairs, and you'll see the black hairs in the tree. It's really interesting. But anyway, we made our way to the farm, the old homestead, and you could see the big chimney, tall chimney from the house. It almost looked like it could go to the sky. Amazing how they got those giant stones there in the middle of nowhere back in the early 1900s, where all they had were mules and wagons to carry these heavy stones. It's just amazing. I highly recommend it. And then we went to the cemetery where we saw some owls in the trees. Woo! Woo! Very neat. But unfortunately, those rowdy guys had beat us there, and they had trashed the place. They had left all their trash there at the cemetery. So Scott and Linda and I, before we left, we went around and picked up the trash. And Linda was over to my left picking up trash, and Scott was over there in front of me picking up trash, and I was picking up trash, and I get another tug on my shirt. And I'm like, Scott, something's tugging at me. I keep feeling this tug on my shirt. And Scott goes, that's the Nunahee. And I'm like, the what? The what? And he goes, the Nunahee. And I'm like, what are the Nunahee? And he goes, those are nature spirits. It's Cherokee legend. I'd never heard of that. Have you ever heard of it? No? I had. Apparently, Cherokee legend has it, there are these nature spirits. They're here in the forest, and they're here to protect the Cherokee. They're strong spirits, and they were always here to protect the Cherokee while they were here. Cherokee used this place as their hunting grounds, and the Nunahee were here to protect the Cherokee. They're kind of jokesters sometimes. They can be jokesters sometimes, but they're strong spirits. But if the Cherokee ever would get into trouble, the Nunahee would be here to protect them. But I told Scott, I go, well, I'm not Cherokee, and yeah, but you know, maybe they're playing a joke on you. And I'm like, yeah, I think maybe I've been hiking too much, and my head's a little light, and I'm just imagining it. That's got to be it. I don't think it's the Nunahee. But anyway, we finished up picking up the trash. But we could still hear those guys, you know, they were rowdy. They had kind of pitched up a campsite along the creek on the other side of the Boyette homestead. So we just left them be. And we went on our way back up to our campsite over by Longfield Branch and No Business. And all I could think about was food. I was so hungry. Scott built us a fire, and I got out my dry sack and got my favorite, my PB&J, my peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And for dessert, my ultimate favorite, oh my gosh, nothing better than Little Debbie Nutty Buddy bars. Oh, the machine processed, chemically enhanced peanut butter and chocolate on those light, fluffy wafers. Martha Stewart, Rachel Ray, Gordon Ramsay, they got nothing on Little Debbie Nutty Buddy bars. Nothing. So I ate my Little Debbie Nutty Buddy bars for dessert, and I had them saved. I saved my other ones for breakfast the next morning. That was all I could think about, because those are my favorite. And I made sure, I said, Scott, we got to make sure my Nutty Buddy bars are saved in my dry sack. We got to make sure we hang our dry sacks very, very high so the bears don't get them, because I got to have my Nutty Buddy bars the next morning. So that's what we did. We made sure, because you've got to make sure you hang your dry sacks very high, because you don't want the bears to get your food while you're camping. So that's very important. Scott found a great tree. He found a wonderful tree that had kind of bent over, and it was very high. So he got to hang his dry sack after dinner way high. Linda and I, we hung our sacks together, and we found a great tree that was hung over. It had kind of fallen over way high above No Business Creek. So I got on the edge of, we got down to the creek. I got on the edge of the creek and got my line and swung. You know, I do granny style, right? Some people like to go overhead. Nah, the trick is go granny style, like this, right? And you swing and let it go. And bingo, first time, every time. Go granny style, that's the way to do it. So that sucker went right over that branch, and then Linda got her water shoes on and went into the creek and grabbed it and brought it back to me, and we hung our dry sacks, and then you tie it to another tree. So we had our dry sacks and my Nutty Buddy bars hanging in my dry sack for the next morning. And right about that time, the wind started picking up. And I'm like, wouldn't that be the get-all, right? Because the forecast was nice and sunny and beautiful weather for our weekend camping trip. And it would just make it that forecast would be wrong, right? You know, plan a camping trip over the weekend and the forecast not be accurate, right? Yep. But the wind just started picking up just a little bit. But we sat around the fire. Scott told stories about the Boyette family, really interesting stories about Prohibition and the No Business Valley and the families that lived there. But the wind kept picking up and getting stronger, and the skies kept getting gloomier and darker. And we thought, you know, we might want to reinforce our tents. So we got our extra line, and we all tied our tents to the trees to make them more secure so the wind wouldn't blow them around. And we kind of, the skies started rumbling, and I'm thinking, we weren't supposed to be getting a storm, Scott, but it looks like there's going to be a bad storm rolling in through here, and we weren't supposed to get one. And Scott goes, you know, we might want to all hunker down in our tents. Let's go ahead and douse out this fire and gather up all our stuff so nothing blows away. Let's make everything as secure, and let's get inside our tents and ride this storm out. Hopefully it'll blow over and everything will be okay. And so we all got in our tents, made sure nothing was out to blow or fly around. Made sure my tent was secure to the tree. got in, zipped everything up, and no sooner than we all got hunkered down in our tents, that wind just started blowing like crazy, howling through the trees. The rain started coming, and I could just hear that No Business Creek just swelling up and swelling up and swelling up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And the sky's getting dark and black. It just got black. It just got black. And I got my flashlight, and I've got my flashlight on, and I'm turning it on, and I'm hearing that creek just flowing like crazy. It sounded like it was just rapids out there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that creek is just, it's rising. It's rising. It's rising. And the wind's just beating on my tent. And all I could think about, hold together, tent. Hold together, tent. Hold together, Nutty Buddy bars. Don't blow away, Nutty Buddy bars. Hold together, Nutty Buddy bars. Oh my gosh, keep those Nutty Buddy bars there. Don't blow away, Nutty Buddy bars. I gotta have my Nutty Buddy bars tomorrow. But I opened up my tent because that creek was just rising and rising. I had to see how high that creek got. And I got out of my tent and I walked over to the edge of where we were, because we were about 10 feet up. You will not believe it. That creek had risen up almost to the level of our tents. I don't think in the history of the Big South Fork has No Business Creek risen that high. And then, just as I had gotten to the edge of that creek and saw how high that creek was risen and flowing like crazy, like rapids, I hear this, "Ah, ah," and it's those two guys. The creek had swollen them up and carrying them off right past me. I had my flashlight on them, and they're flailing in the water, and they go right past my Nutty Buddy bars. Oh my gosh, they're right past my Nutty Buddy bars, right down No Business Creek, right on their way down to the Big South Fork. They're screaming. There's nothing I can do. There's no way. I was hoping they could grab my dry sacks, me and Linda's dry sacks, but nope. The creek just carried them away into the dark. Oh, help, 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 help. Into the dark. They disappeared. And no sooner did those voices disappear into the night, the wind stopped, the waters calmed down, the creek calmed down and started to drop, and I'm standing there soaking wet with my flashlight, and I shine my flashlight down the creek. My Nutty Buddy bars are okay. And I'm just standing there and I'm like, what just happened here? Oh my gosh. I get back in my tent. I go, Scott, Linda's tent's okay. Scott's tent's okay. They're sound asleep. How'd they sleep through all that? Am I dreaming? Did I dream it? Shine the light on me. I'm still here. I get back in my tent. I go to sleep. Wake up the next morning, sun's shining. I get out, creek's down, just as calm as can be. I asked Linda and Scott, did y'all hear that last night? No, didn't hear a thing. Are y'all sure? Y'all didn't hear those guys? You didn't see the creek? That creek carried them all the way down. I think they're down somewhere down the Big South Fork by now. Nope, never heard a thing. Okay, well, we packed up. I had my Nutty Buddy bars for breakfast, and we packed up our tents. We crossed No Business because we were headed down No Business Trail, and then we were going to pick up the Kentucky Trail and head on over to Blue Heron. The Blue Heron train station, and for an overnight camp trip. So we can't grab everything. We're headed down No Business, and we hear all this commotion. It's maybe it's about a mile hike down to where the Kentucky Trail picks up No Business, and you follow the No Business Creek. And just at the Kentucky Trail, No Business Creek kind of takes a turn to the right just a little bit. And up ahead, you see this ginormous, huge mound of trash. Mound of trash. And I'm looking at Scott and Linda. I'm like, what the heck? What the heck? That creek had swelled that night. That storm had swelled that creek and had pulled up all the trash that all the people through the days and the months that had hiked in No Business Valley, and every little wrapper, every little napkin, every little piece of paper that everyone had ever dropped in the Big South Fork and No Business Valley, that creek had swelled up and carried and dumped in a big giant pile, just as high, taller than maybe 3-4 times as high as me. And by the time we got there, the rangers were there. They had come up from Laurel Hill and had come down the short section of the Kentucky Trail down to No Business, and were digging out the trash. And sure enough, they had dug out those two jerks that had littered up all over the place, that we had picked up their trash. And those guys were going blah, 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 blah. They couldn't even talk. They were going blah, 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 blah. The Nunahee had taken care of them. I heard they're in Chattanooga somewhere, being fed by a spoon, wearing diapers. That's what happened to them. That's what's going to happen to you, maybe, if the Nunahee catch you littering in their Big South Fork. So you better be careful. But anyway, when we got there, I'm looking around. Scott goes over to talk to the rangers because he knows them. And I hear one of the rangers goes, "Oh my gosh, look at this." And we all run. And in the ground, in the mud, there's these like hieroglyphic kind of things written in the mud. And I'm like, "Scott, what is that?" And Scott goes, "I don't know, but one of the rangers does. One of the rangers actually knows how to read Cherokee." And Scott asked the ranger, "What is that? What does that say?" And the ranger says, "Leave no trace." So that's a warning from the Nunahee. Leave no trace. Keep what is our treasure, the Big South Fork, our treasure.